अस्सलाम वालेकुम एंड वेलकम टू काम कहानी पॉडकास्ट फॉर द करियर क्यूरियस। आज हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं मोहम्मद अमीनुद्दीन साहब। ही इज़ द CEO ऑफ TPL इंश्योरेंस एंड अ लॉन्ग टाइम फाइनेंशियल सेक्टर प्रोफेशनल। सो आज उनसे बात करते हैं एंड लिसन टू हिज काम कहानी। अस्सलाम वालेकुम। Thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure and honor. I think before we started, we were talking about Pakistan as a huge opportunity. And आजकल ये बहुत unpopular opinion है. So please tell us why you think Pakistan is such a big opportunity.
देखिए जी, पाकिस्तान को अगर आप numbers के perspective से देखें, and again there are two lenses, right? One is the lens is the corporate framework, where you look at from a corporate landscape, is this the best country to do corporate activity? I mean, when I say corporate activity, maybe manufacturing steel, maybe manufacturing cement. So I'm not talking about the high-tech industries because that is something that we have to catch up on. But even from an opportunistic perspective, if you look at the corporate side, maybe there are certain challenges in terms of what can and can be done, given the framework, given other resource and whatnot. We do a large extent, we are resource import dependent for certain manufacturing. So oil and gas, we have very little indigenous. तो वो कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर को अगर हम थोड़ी देर के लिए एक साइड रखते हैं और हम बात करें कंज्यूमर और रिटेल की,
Sure.
पाकिस्तान इज द लैंड ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटी because of the simple facts. I mean, just the top of the line statistics. I mean, the new census is out. We are a 240 million population, right? If you look at the number of people above around the age of 30, 70% of the population or thereabouts are 30, which is a young population, not an aging population in Japan or other countries where you got to worry about an aging workforce which needs to be supported through pension or other healthcare activity. Young thing. When we look at it from a connectivity perspective, how plugged in they are, how aware they are, how internet connected and communication they are, 60 million smartphone connections, 140 million telephone connections. Okay, so individual थोड़े कम हो जाएंगे, but 60 million smartphone user है. 60 million बहुत सारे मुल्क की population से ज़्यादा एक number होता है. In lots of countries, if you look at the neighborhood, India, China को छोड़ दें, तो 60 million बहुत सारी countries की total population से ज़्यादा है. Even in developed country like the UK, 60-70 million की population है. So, if you look at it from an opportunity perspective, young, connected population, so that means they are listening to new ideas, they are connected on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. They are getting the latest of information, latest of trends. And because they are young and enthusiastic, will want to participate in whatever they can.
But surely having a large population is just one factor, right? I mean, there are other factors also, I'm sure. So what are those other factors? Fine, we have a big population, but what are other factors that make this an attractive market?
So I think it's the cultural mindsets also. We are an economy and the kind of culture that we have and the people that we have a very live and let live kind of a mindset. हम चाहते हैं कि हम अच्छे खाने खाएं, अच्छे खाने ट्राई करें, अच्छे कपड़े पहने, अच्छे जूते ट्राई करें. We are a consumption oriented economy. We are not somebody who says कि यार आज पैसे बचा लो कल के लिए इस्तेमाल होंगे. That's our culture. That's our nature. We celebrate food. We celebrate fashion. We celebrate every part of our society, our culture. So from a growth perspective for retail-centric or consumer-centric company, this is a phenomenal market. Barriers to entry, perception. I mean, we've had global investors who work with us, people from different parts of the world, and said, you are so bad at marketing yourself that whenever we come here, we come and shake our hands and say, you guys need to tell your story. I think in certain ways, some macros overtake us. The fact that we have a certain neighborhood in terms of countries that we are ringed by, and there are certain events that are happening which are beyond our control. That is the perception that goes out. You know, we are neighboring to certain volatile regions, and there are things that happen in that volatile regions which are the worst, that projects the image. And that image somehow, from a media perspective, overwhelms the opportunity set that presents itself. Which when you dig deeper, when you arrive on the ground and you look and say, okay, this is not what I thought it would be. this is the universal statement you get from everybody once you get him here. So there's a friend of mine who is a sales agent for textiles and textiles related thing. तो वो ये कहता है कि अमीन भाई एक विजिट की मार है जिसको मैं बड़ा मुश्किल है उनको लाना, चाहे वो स्पेनिश हो, चाहे वो इटालियन हो, चाहे वो फिनिश हो, वो उसको मैं लाना मेरा बड़ा मुश्किल हो। कहते दुबई तक आएंगे, आगे नहीं आएंगे, बट जिसको मैं ले आया ना वो 2 कंटेनर ऑर्डर से कम देखी सोल्ड डन। मतलब वो आता है, वो देखता है, वो कहता है यार किधर थे तुम, इधर ही थे, आप आ नहीं रहे।
बट लाना मुश्किल होता है, पहले
लाना मुश्किल है क्योंकि वो सिक्योरिटी प्रोटोकॉल्स के जी, वो आपको ये चीज़ें भी करनी है, आपने इस इलाके में नहीं जाना, आपने इस फ्लाइट पे आना है, आपको प्लेटार्ट लेके बंदा खड़ा हो कि आपको कोई किडनैप ना कर ले। वो भाई आके तो देखो। तो वो जो आ जाता है ना वो कन्विंस्ड है और वो दूसरों को भी लेके आता है। मगर वी डोंट हेल्प आवरसेल्व्स बाय मैनेजिंग द नैरेटिव। ऐसा नहीं है कि अगर हम अपने नेबरहुड में देखें जो हमारे साथ बाकी इलाका है, वहाँ भी दूध और शहद की नदियाँ नहीं बह रही हैं, मगर वहाँ लोगों को अगर आप कंपेयर करें, आई डोंट वांट टू टेक नेम्स ऑफ नेबर्स बट they're the same.
We all know what you order that.
They're all the same, right? हम एक ही थान के मुख्तलिफ
कंप्लेन भी करते हैं वैसे।
आई थिंक वो हमारा एक एस्पेक्ट है वेयर अगेन इट्स परसेप्शन मैनेजमेंट थिंग कि we've not managed the narrative and some people who are very similar to us have managed the narrative very well. उनके पास भी वही इशू हैं, उनके पास भी वही गंदे नाले और वही स्लम्स हैं जैसे हमारे पास है, मगर वहाँ उनके तो नैरेटिव में नज़र नहीं आता। ये हमारे नैरेटिव में शुरू ही हम वहाँ से करते हैं कि ये फट गया, ये ख़राब हो गया, ये तबाह हो गया। वहाँ भी हो रहा है सब कुछ ये, बट वो आई थिंक इस बैलेंस करना है। ऐसा नहीं है कि आप उसको हाइड कर दें या उसको इग्नोर कर दें। सो आई थिंक दैट्स व्हेयर आई कम बैक टू पाकिस्तान एज एन अनएक्सप्लोर्ड अनटैप्ड अपॉर्चुनिटी. Yes, there are more structured environments where opportunity is probably easier available than here. Here you need to navigate and be able to understand things, how things work in this culture, in this environment. But the opportunity it presents is, I think, very difficult to meet anywhere in the world.
And that's heartening. That's heartening because these days Pakistan is just, it's a hotbed of complaints and like you said, bad marketing. So nobody wants to come here.
So I think it starts up with the attitude you possess, right? So you can get up in the morning, you can look at a glass half full and say, yaar, ye to aadha khali hai. Or you can say, aadha bhara hua hai. That choice is yours. So what are those neurons firing in your head which will tell you, कि यार ये तो आधा glass पानी का मिल रहा है, फिर आधा खाली क्यों? It's just that. It's that switch you have to throw in your head, and that's it. So आपके यहाँ ठीक है issues हैं, रोड में खड्डे हैं, but trust me, I was just in the UK, वहाँ भी रोड में खड्डे हैं. In fact मुझे तो आके सारे फैसले उनकी रोड से बेहतर लग रही है. And I'm not kidding you. I was there for 2 weeks in London, driving around in London saying, I think our roads are better back home. My internet connectivity and the cost of internet that I paid for while in London, I mean, I paid something like £13 for 2 gigabytes. Here I have unlimited for 5,000 rupees. तो मैंने कहा यार पाकिस्तान चलते हैं भाई, वहाँ डेटा भी सस्ता है.
Is that why you came back to Pakistan?
Well, I've lived there. But the point is that when you go outside and you experience, I mean, we went to Spain, when you experience things and you say, yeah, you're so bad off. जो उनकी दहात चीज़ें अच्छी लगती हैं, जब उनकी आप रिसर्च देखते हैं, आप उनकी, I mean, no doubt it's top of the world. I mean, I've lived there for a number of years. It's owned for me as well in part of ways. But नहीं यार, हर चीज़ बुरी नहीं है यार, अच्छी चीज़ें हैं. ऐसा नहीं है कि वहाँ गर्मी होती है, वहाँ तो एसीज भी नहीं है, हमारे पास पंखे और एसी नहीं है, और वहाँ गर्मी.
I love this optimism.
Yeah, and I mean, we were going to Spain and everybody was telling me, पागल हो गए, स्पेन जा रहे हैं यार, वहाँ तो हीट वेव आ रही है. मैंने कहा हाँ, अगर हम कराची से आ रहे हैं तो हमें तो गर्मी की आदत है. तो हम पहुँचे, हमें तो गर्मी नहीं लग रही थी, बाकियों को बहुत गर्मी लग रही थी, क्योंकि वहाँ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इज़ नॉट डिज़ाइंड for the kind of climate change that is happening and the heat waves and the things that are happening. But we enjoyed it for what it was, and yeah, the weather was there, but full we are used to it. So I think it's that switch in your head. You just have to throw that switch and say, यार glass आधा खाली नहीं, आधा भरा हुआ है, अब देखो कि क्या करना है इसके साथ.
I hope हम ये switch जल्दी flip कर दें.
Because I think it's a collective mindset. जैसे वो एक बीज का होता है कि I think this optimism is infectious. So I think with the forum that you are, if we can somehow pass this on, okay, maybe we will fail sometimes, but if we can just do it more often than not, I think this is a transformation that can happen and can happen very quickly. It's just a switch in the mind. कहते यार ये देखो कि अच्छा क्या है, बुरा है,
I'll also look for that switch
yeah,
within me.
है अच्छा है और है और देखने को मिलता है. I mean, जो अपने खानों का मजा है वो आके आके मिलता है. वहाँ आप जा रहे होते बोलते हैं यार अपने अच्छे थे ना.
Amisa, I have to ask you now. मैंने आज podcast I've started upside down from नीचे से शुरू कर दिया मैंने, but that's fine. मुझे ये पूछना है, you lived in Africa, you lived in the UK and multiple other countries. Why did you come back to Pakistan? I know internet and food, but what else?
नहीं देखिए जी, वो बात ही होती है कि as I said, there are pros and cons for every situation. The world has a lot to teach us. There's a lot of knowledge and expertise and experiences. But there is a time in your life when you are born, when you are learning things. And there's a time in your life when you are applying things, right? The structured environment that you get in developed countries teaches you a lot in a very systematic manner. And they've had 200 years of history. So if you compare some of the advanced nation that we index ourselves as tier 1, developed countries versus us tier 2, tier 3 developing nations, they've had 200 years of doing it, 300 years of doing it, right? So आपको एक benefit मिलता है of going into a structured environment where you get to learn a lot in a relatively short span of time, because they've been at it for such a long time. You've been around for 75, 76 years already. So you haven't had that history or you haven't had that evolution that they've gone through. But then when you're in those developed environments, the opportunity set to apply it is also limited. If you work in one of the largest global companies, and I've worked for several, everything is defined. Those boxes are saying कि यार ये आपका डब्बा है, आपने इसके अंदर रहना है. आपको हमने बता देना कि इस तरह काम करते हैं, इस तरह लेटर लिखते हैं, इस तरह ईमेल लिखते हैं, इस तरह फ़ोन कॉल अटेंड करते हैं, इस तरह उठते हैं, इस तरह बैठते हैं, इस तरह चुरी कांटा पकड़ते हैं, वो सब सिखा देंगे.
हम बताएंगे,
आप बता देंगे और आप सीख लें, मगर आप इसी के अंदर घूमना है और दायरे से बाहर निकलने का सोचिएगा भाई, क्योंकि वो किसी और का काम है. तो डोंट थिंक अबाउट इट. So it's good to learn, it's good to develop. That is why I think an experience which everybody must have above and beyond formal education is travel. You need to travel. Because travel जितनी आँखें खोलता है, travel आपको जितनी चीज़ें सिखाता है. You see, because all of a sudden you thrust into an environment where there are no predefined manuals कि जी अब क्या करना है. आप लैंड कर रहे हैं स्पेनिश एयरपोर्ट पे, किसी को आगे ज़बान नहीं आती, आपको स्पेनिश बोलनी नहीं आती, उनको उर्दू बोलनी नहीं आती. Now figure out what you're gonna do. And we evolve. हम वैसे ही बाय नेचर कल्चर जुगाड़ू लोग थे, हमें अपने रास्ते ढूंढ लेते. मगर ये आपको कॉन्स्टेंटली अपने आप को पुश करना पड़ता है कि यार निकलो अपनी कंफर्ट एनवायरनमेंट से, जहाँ आपकी ज़बान, आपका कल्चर, आपका है. सो ट्रैवल इज़, आई थिंक, as important as formal education, as much as you can get. And even if it means, traveling within the country, outside the country is better because you've given a new environment to operate it. And I think from an opportunity set, as I said earlier, Pakistan is a land of unlimited opportunities almost. It's good to come back and adapt here and make a change here. So जो impact आप यहाँ create कर सकते हैं after you've learned this, शायद वहाँ create करना इतना आसान नहीं है. यहाँ बहुत आसान. So I had this, again, a friend of mine who works for a global name, and he told me this story which I found very endearing. He said कि यार मीन भाई मेरे पास engineers है, it's an engineering sort of company. तो मेरे पास एक long standing list है from across the world. It's a big global name across the world कि वो हमारे engineers मांगते हैं. जो मैंने engineer बगैर ट्रेनिंग के 2 साल से पहले भेज दिया, वो डिजास्टर है. क्योंकि हमें जुगाड़ू बुक, हम ना नहीं मानते एट फर्स्ट. मैनुअल में लिखा है कि यार ये करना है और ये होना चाहिए, और वो नहीं होगा तो जो गोरा है या जो उस इन्वायरमेंट का है वो 2 दफ़ा ये कोशिश करेगा, कहेगा जी सॉरी इट्स नॉट वर्किंग, आई कांट डू एनीथिंग अबाउट इट. हमारा कहेगा ऐसी की तैसी, क्यों नहीं हो रहा, मैं इसको ठीक करके दूंगा, राइट. So he says that people that I'm able to train for 2 years in that structured environment of my company based in Lahore, those people are asked by the US franchise, by all over the world. There is a demand कि हमें बंदे भेज लो. And I've exported females as well. Female engineers going from Pakistan, and he has a long list of people to say कि आप कह रहे कितने दे सकते हो, दे दो मैं. क्योंकि वो काम वो करते हैं जो जाके गोरे नहीं कर सकते.
problem solvers.
Problem solvers. They will find a solution. First, they need to think in a structured way, which is not a default option. When you come out of a college, when you come out of things, our environment is not structured. You need to give them that structure. Team that क्या इस तरह काम करते हैं, इस तरह email लिखते हैं, इस तरह जवाब देते हैं, इस तरह अपनी report लिखते हैं. एक दफ़ा वो सिखा दें ना, then let them loose. They will outperform everybody else. So they are the center of excellence and they are exporting people. उनके पास कह रहे हैं मेरे पास इतने बंदे नहीं हैं मैं export कर. I will long send you them. Ready list है कि 10 दे दो और 10 ले लेते हैं. And these are going in global positions, in global organizations in developed markets. यहाँ से Japan anything. They're going. हमारे बंदे. So what I'm saying is कि देखिए इस environment में कुछ फ़वायद हैं और कुछ challenges हैं. तो आपको दोनों को मैच करके लिखना पड़ता है. It's great to go out, learn that structure, learn that skills, and come and apply here. Because वो काम जो यहाँ कर सकते हैं वो आप नहीं कर सकते आप. And it's always easier if you've seen it work in somewhere else and to copy rather than do it yourself in the first. It's always easier to innovate if you have direction in the sense कि मैंने देखा था ये चल रहा है. That's how it works. Land of opportunity.
Amin sir, let's now get to the meat. Let's talk about the insurance industry in Pakistan. Can you give us like a little overview of the landscape of the insurance industry in Pakistan?
So insurance industry in Pakistan has evolved in a certain way. And why that is the case, I'm not too sure. But it has evolved probably because the need of the hour then was that it required to support large large exposures. So insurance is nothing but a backstop. It's a financial backstop for an unpredicted or an unanticipated event happening of a financial nature. कि खुदा खास्ता कहीं आग लग जाए या खुदा खास्ता कहीं ज़लज़ला आ जाए या any damage that happens, which can be kind of mitigated in the sense that it can be repaired or replaced, machine टूट जाए. That's what insurance essentially does. It's a pool of cash put aside by a professional counterpart for unforeseen events. They could be natural events, they could be man-made events, whatever, right? When industries are set up, they are carrying a lot of risk, operational risk. Machine चाहिए, उसे production करनी है, अगर machine टूट जाए, खराब हो जाए, आग लग जाए, destroy हो जाए, what is the fastest way to get that machine to be working again, which you need financial resources? And lenders have said, let's get some protection. कि अगर आपकी मशीन जिसके लिए आप प्रोडक्शन करना चाह रहे हैं उसके लिए हम आपको उधार दे रहे हैं, तो मशीन में आग लग जाए तो आप हमारा लोन कैसे वापस करेंगे और आप प्रोडक्शन कैसे करेंगे. कोई एक इंश्योरेंस ले लें ताकि आपको मशीन खरीदने के या मशीन को रिप्लेस करने के पैसे हो ताकि आप हमारा लोन वापस कर सकें और
मतलब बहुत बड़ा नुकसान हो जाए.
मतलब आपको एक then you have a new capital requirement which was not anticipated. So you just take a little bit of money aside. There is a mathematical equation to it. We have actuarial tables and actuarial calculations whereby you predict events, which is a probability, and you predict severity, which is care of सारे 1 लाख का होगा या 1 अरब का होगा. That's what.
Interestingly, in the last episode, we had an actuary as a guest.
Okay. Yes. So that's what they are constantly doing, and that's a function of data that's being evaluated, new information coming in, and it's constantly being updated. It's an iterative process. So insurance is therefore developed on the corporate side. Industry लगी बैंकों को पैसे lend करने थे. Industry ने कहा कि अच्छा हम तुम्हें लोन दे रहे हैं, insurance लगाओ. By and large ticket, small volume. That's corporate for you. On the consumer side, somehow, for some reason, and I don't know why, we've not focused on this. And I think that is why if you look at the products available, solutions available to the man on the street or various tiers of society, we don't have the same products that are available, let's say, in the neighboring countries. Developed countries तो बात छोड़ ही दें, वो तुमसे बहुत आगे. आई थिंक इस पर वो जो इन्वेस्टमेंट होनी थी, जो सेक्टर ने करनी थी, वो नहीं की. जो आई थिंक जो फैसिलिटेटर्स हैं, रेगुलेटर्स हैं, तो वी आर गेटिंग देयर. इट्स नॉट दैट वी डन नथिंग, वी आर गेटिंग देयर. बट अगर आप स्टेटिस्टिक्स से मांगें तो इंश्योरेंस पेनिट्रेशन इन पाकिस्तान इज़ वन ऑफ द लोएस्ट इन द वर्ल्ड. एंड इफ़ यू लुक एट इट फ्रॉम एन अपॉर्चुनिटी सेट, इसको आप मैप करें हमारी पॉपुलेशन पे, इसको आप मैप करें हमारी इनकम पर कैपिटा पे, इसको हमारी आप कंज्यूमर ट्रेंड से मैप करें. अगर आप इसको कंज्यूमर रिटेल देखें कि हमारा ऑनलाइन सेल्स का कहाँ जा रहा है, हमारा डिजिटल ट्रांजैक्शंस की ट्रेंड्स का आए, तो हम बहुत अच्छे हैं. So I think that the gap has to be filled by interventions done by people who are saying, "Yeah, this is a relatively connected, informed population, which has needs which are not being served." There are some factors जो facilitate करते हैं इसको, जो build करने पड़ेंगे. Trust is one. Because generally speaking, when you're asking somebody कि यार मुझे पैसे अभी दे दो, जब नुकसान हुआ तो मैं आऊँगा, तो आपने एक बहुत बड़ा trust factor वो आपने achieve करना है.
How do you build that trust with the consumer?
I think there is only one way, which is pay claims. We don't exist to collect premium. We exist to pay claims. Claim is your product service. When you pay a claim, that's why you exist. And the more you do it, and the more visibly you do it, and the more often you do it, that's when the proof of concept becomes very visible. मतलब आपको कोई चीज़ आप खरीदते हैं, जब तक आप उसको इस्तेमाल नहीं करते तो आपको उसकी यूटिलिटी समझ नहीं आती. हमारे यहाँ अनफॉर्चुनेटली क्योंकि इस पर इतना काम नहीं किया गया, तो प्रूफ ऑफ कॉन्सेप्ट बहुत लोगों को नहीं पता. बट अब जो चेंज आ रहा है वो ये आ रहा है कि हमारी कनेक्शंस बहुत बेहतर हो गई हैं बाय वर्च्यू ऑफ सोशल मीडिया. इंस्टाग्राम हो गया, बाकी सारे प्लेटफॉर्म जो है, टिकटॉक हो गया, उससे अब यूज़ केसेस बड़ी जल्दी बड़े वाज़े तौर पे लोगों के सामने आए. और अब क्योंकि मिनटों में नहीं सेकंडों में बातें बाहर निकलती हैं कि यार ये हुआ तो ये हुआ,
ये हुआ, कंपनी ने हमारे क्लेम पे नहीं किया, या एट अ बैड एक्सपीरियंस और अ गुड एक्सपीरियंस.
बट आई थिंक बोथ साइड्स, देयर विल नेवर बी वन वे ट्रैफिक, देयर विल बी टू वे ट्रैफिक. हमेशा हर चीज़ के अंदर पॉजिटिव्स भी होंगे, नेगेटिव्स भी होंगे. इट्स दैट स्विच इन योर माइंड व्हिच यू नीड टू हैव कि यार वो भी देखो ना, जिन लोगों को फॉरेन बेनिफिट्स मिल गया, अगर उनके पास ये बेनिफिट नहीं मिलता तो फिर वो क्या करते. उनको एक ट्रेडिशनल हैसल होता, या हमारा फिर एक वो कॉन्सेप्ट है सपोर्ट सिस्टम जो हमारे कल्चर में एग्जिस्ट करते हैं, और फैमिली एंड फ्रेंड्स. आई मीन आजकल देव ऑलवेज बीन देयर बीन पार्ट ऑफ दैट सोशल एनवायरनमेंट दैट वी लिव इन कि यार व्हेन देयर इज अ प्रॉब्लम दैट एवरीबॉडी जस्ट से.
तो हमारी इंश्योरेंस है, इज आवर सर्कल ऑफ फ्रेंड,
एक इनफॉर्मल सैलरी है. एंड देन देयर इज दैट फेथ बेस्ड कॉन्सेप्ट एज वेल के अल्लाह मालिक है, आयतुल कुर्सी पढ़ लो, दादा दादा बांध लो, वो ख्याल करेगा. विच इज़ ट्रू, विच इज़ फाइन, विच इज़ नॉट. बट द पॉइंट इज़ कि यार देखें, जब आप एक फैक्ट्री लगाते हैं तो फैक्ट्री में आप ये नहीं करते कि आप सिर्फ एक फायर एक्सटिंग्विशर लगा के कह देते हैं अल्लाह मालिक है. आप इंश्योरेंस भी लेते हैं. देयर आर लेयर्स ऑफ सपोर्ट दैट यू गेट, एंड यू डोंट एक्सपेक्ट ओनली वन लेयर टू बी द 100% प्रोटेक्शन फॉर व्हाट यू. सो I think these are concepts which unfortunately we don't get taught in our schools, in our environment, in our culture. हमें बहुत सारी कदरें, बहुत सारे values in our home setup, in our social setups, in our schools, in our religious places we are taught. But finance ka at any level, there is no comprehension.
There's no financial literacy in school.
There is zero. मतलब आपको बचपन में मुझे बताएं किस क्लास में, क्लास 1 से लेके आप
एवर
कि किसी ने बताया कि भाई ये आपका सेविंग का प्रोसेस होता है, ये आपने इस तरह पैसे बचाने हैं, इस तरह पैसे खर्च करने हैं, इस तरह महीने की आमदनी को इस तरह साइड पे रखना है, इस तरह.
तो हाउ डू वी, हम इसको किस तरह से बेहतर कर सकते हैं? लाइक व्हेन डू वी इंट्रोड्यूस फाइनेंशियल लिटरेसी?
This is how we do it. And I think the point is that there are again various ways to intervene. So I was watching this TikTok video in terms of how cultures behave, and there was this video that I was watching of kindergarten in Japan, right? And there were these kids pretending to sit on chairs, and they think that, and pretending that they're in a bus. So they are these kids literally this high, maybe they're 3-4 years old, sitting in a kindergarten. And they're role playing. They're role playing. And they're saying कि यार वो बंदा एक बैठा है, वो एक बच्चा एंटर करता है, like entering the bus, so थोड़ा बुढ़ा है. तो one kid gets up and gives him the seat. Then another lady gets in, वो हामला है. Then another girl gets up and gives the seat. So they are showing this at 2 to 3 years of age in kindergarten, role playing in modern. That is what culture building is. That is what society building is. क्या आपने 2 साल की उम्र पे बताया है कि यार कोई बड़ा आएगा जो कमज़ोर है और उसको बैठने की जगह चाहिए, तो अपनी सीट छोड़ देनी है आपने. कोई खातून आएंगी जो आपसे ज़्यादा कमज़ोर हैं, जिनको सीट की ज़रूरत है, आपने अपनी सीट छोड़ देनी है. Opportunity. Start at all levels, but if you can't do that, then do what you're doing.
And how did you come into insurance? Like you were a career banker, you were doing really well all over the world. आप किस तरह आए इंश्योरेंस?
जो कहते हैं ना रिश्ता लिखा है वरना मैं खुद ही याद है.
Okay.
So I was actually in the UK for a very long time. I had to relocate, family reasons. So one of the questions you asked, why am I back? I think the fact is that from our cultural perspective, one of our anchors is family. And as we age, so do our parents. And there are certain values that we adhere to, which I think the Western society still has kind of moved away from that concept of being family, being there for your parents, being there for your family. So that was the anchor which brought me back. When I was coming back, there was an opportunity that presented itself. Family does. Lo and behold, it's been 5 years.
And how have you been navigating insurance? How different is the insurance sector versus banking? Well, they're both in the financial industry, but क्या difference है?
पाकिस्तान में, as I said, कि हम थोड़े पीछे हैं.
सिर्फ इंश्योरेंस में या पूरे फाइनेंशियल सेक्टर के अंदर?
नहीं, I think बाकी by and large, अगर आप क्रिप्टो को छोड़ दें बाहर, जो बिल्कुल कटिंग एज है, by and large, my Pakistan credit card started giving me transactional SMS on what spend that I did far before my UK credit card. Far. So in many ways we are ahead. Because of the nature of the market and the population, which is so, and the fact the size is very big. So innovation में banking के अंदर मैं corporate की बात नहीं करता, मैं retail की बात करता हूँ. हमारी apps, हमारी services, the networks that we have, the connectivity that we have. Okay, maybe it's not comparable to China because they're a very large market and they've evolved far more, but we are not bad. Not bad. Okay, हमारे पास even on the corporate side वो cutting edge derivatives नहीं होंगे जो maybe न्यूयॉर्क में या हांगकॉन्ग में या लंदन में ट्रेड करते होंगे, क्योंकि वो मार्केट्स बहुत इवॉल्व है, बट उनको 300 साल से ज़्यादा हो गए ना यार, बहुत साल से कर रहे हैं, हमें तो इतना टाइम नहीं हुआ.
They invented banking.
हाँ, and but I think we are catching up really fast, and there are some limitations in terms of time and space which takes its while, so we have to go through that evolutionary process.
So banking sector is doing fine.
Is reasonably fine, yes. I think बेहतरी की गुंजाइश हर जगह होती है. By and large, we are not doing too badly. I think done reasonably well. है गुंजाइश, बहुत गुंजाइश. But that's the opportunity that Pakistan is. कि हर काम करने की बहुत opportunity. ये नहीं कह सकते कि यार मेरे पास बस 10 कस्टमर और आएंगे, कस्टमर ख़त्म हो जाएंगे. कस्टमर नहीं ख़त्म होते, अपॉर्चुनिटी नहीं ख़त्म होती. अपॉर्चुनिटी बहुत है और इतनी ज़्यादा है कि किसी एक कंपनी को भी नहीं संभाल सकती. There are multiple players needed to tap the opportunity set and the things that need to be done. So I think to answer your question, insurance is, I think, one step behind. Banking has evolved more. Variety of reasons. It's probably a greater necessity. तो आपको कहीं पैसे डिपॉजिट करने हैं वो ज़्यादा ज़रूरत है, आपको कहीं से पैसे बोरो करने हैं वो ज़्यादा ज़रूरत है. इंश्योरेंस क्योंकि हमने समझाई नहीं, पढ़ाई नहीं, उसकी ज़रूरत को एहसास नहीं है, तो उसकी नेसेसिटी नहीं है, पुल नहीं है, हमें पुश करनी पड़ती है, हमें बताना पड़ता है लोगों को कि यार आपको ये पता है. जैसे एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल है यार, एहसास है लोगों को बट वो ट्रिगर नहीं होता एक्शन. मैं एग्जांपल देता हूँ आपको. अभी रिसेंटली कराची में तूफान आने वाला था. माई फोन स्टार्टेड रिंगिंग एंड मैसेजेस कि यार वो सोलर की इंश्योरेंस कर दो यार. तो भाई इतने दिनों से लगा हुआ था, तो उसका क्यों नहीं ख्याल आया? जब तुरंत तूफान आके आपको आपकी जान जाती है कि यार अभी तो चला जाएगा, सारा उड़ के चला गया, तो मेरा वो इन्वेस्टमेंट उसका क्या होगा? क्यों पहले क्यों नहीं सोचा? इसका कोई जवाब नहीं. आई थिंक कसूर हमारा है. आई मीन देयर इज ऑलवेज टू साइड्स ऑफ अ कॉइन. आप ये नहीं कह सकते कि यार लोगों को भी आशना नहीं है, लोगों को पता है, बट हमने शायद उनके लिए आसान नहीं किया. हमने शायद उनको जाके बताया नहीं कि यार कितना आसान है, और यार और वो समझे पता नहीं कितना खर्चा है, कितना सस्ता है. तो यू नो, सो द इट्स बोथ साइड्स ऑफ द कॉइन. यू हैव टू लुक एट इट बोथ साइड्स ऑफ द कॉइन. आई थिंक देयर इज सम responsibility that we as the industry at the insurance company should take, and there is an element of reciprocity that the end consumer has, but there's a lot to be done.
So now you're TPL, you're the CEO of TPL Insurance.
Yes.
And we were talking about how TPL Insurance, you mentioned, is leading, in fact TPL as a group is leading on multiple fronts. But what are you doing to counter this issue, the issue of lack of education about insurance?
So we try. देखिए पुराना ज़माना बदल गया और उसके औजार भी बदल गए. We have new tools, new tricks in the bag. So what we have realized is that social media is a far more cost-effective and a targeted approach. When you put an ad in the newspaper, very effective, traditional, has a certain cost, but has a certain utility. आपका वो सुबह अखबार नया आ गया, पुराना अखबार आपने dispose of कर दिया, that image, that thought has gone, right? Social media changing very fast, but the cost of intervention is very less. So you can be very precise, very targeted for every segment of the target market you want to talk to, and you can talk to them at a fraction of the cost. So if you look at the total engagement marketing spend that I have, I think majority of it is tilted towards social media. We do some traditional, we do some newspaper, we do some, but हम जैसी कंपनी के लिए जो जिस स्टेज ऑफ डिवोल्यूशन पे हम हैं, we don't run or we cannot afford to justify a very expensive TV commercial run at this stage. It does make sense for some people, and I completely understand कि आपका scale of business इतना बड़ा हो, आपकी outreach इतनी बड़ी हो, आपका customer base इतना बड़ा हो, और आपका ticket size इतना ज़्यादा justify कर सका हो, तो उसके लिए make sense करता है. चैनल की इफादियत है और कुछ markets के लिए और कुछ businesses के लिए है. मैं अपनी बात कर सकता हूँ कि जी हमें we are more tilted towards social media and online advertising, and for that we pretty much use the channels to the best of our abilities.
और ये जो educating people about the insurance industry, ये भी कर रहे होते हैं आप through your social media?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, you see, देखिए, what I told you about role playing, very important. If you push products, I mean, अगर आपको ना बताया जाए कि आपने टूथपेस्ट को खाना है या बाल पे लगाना है, तो आपको ट्यूब दे दी जाएगी, यार ये ले लो, तो आप क्या करेंगे उसका? आँख में लगाऊं, कान में लगाऊं, क्या करूँ, बाल में लगाऊं, दांत मारूं, क्या करूँ? आपको एजुकेट करना पड़ता है. Another very interesting story, I was talking to this person who runs a company, it's a household name, which toilet cleaning. तो मैंने उससे पूछा कि यार तुम कैसे करते हो? तो कह रहे हमने टीम्स बनाई है औरतों की, वो गांव बाय गांव जाती है, छोटी छोटी पंचायतें करती हैं, जाके वहाँ पहुँचती हैं और वहाँ औरतों को जमा करती हैं, उनको दिखाती है कि यार ये टॉयलेट ब्रश है, ये हमारा है, और ये इस तरह साफ़ करते हैं, और हम एक छोड़ के जा रहे हैं आपकी, ताकि अपने आप टॉयलेट साफ़ करें.
That basic.
We are going down to a small collection of chuggies and telling them how to maintain hygiene. This is the level of intervention that you know if you are a retail company. You have to teach people what to do with your products and the benefits. And then you can expect them in whatever shape and size to start becoming a customer and getting the benefit. So, भाई जब आपके पास शैम्पू नहीं था और साबुन से नहाते थे, किसी ने बताया ना आपको कि यार ये शैम्पू लो, इसको बाल पे लगाओ और फिर तुम्हें ये फ़ायदे मिलेंगे. Somebody had told him. Somebody's made that investment. On our side, we haven't made that investment as a group, as an industry, as an industry. We haven't. I think that's what's missing, and that's something that needs to be done. Again, देखिए उसकी pros and cons है. Again, because when you're talking to a diversified lot of people, where the ticket size is small. जैसे मेरी for example एक travel insurance की product जो online available है, domestic travel है, 140 रुपए की है. It's a digital product, right? And it covers you from point A to point B if you're traveling domestically with the comparison website we've associated with. Now, the point is, if I was to try and be non-digital, now if I was to say कि मैं आपको policy mail में भेजूंगा 300 रुपए का, तो मेरा posted कर देना जाएगा. It doesn't make sense, right? By the time you get there, that policy would have been over because it's from point A to point B, which is a X-hour journey, not a multi-day journey. So you have to adapt. And I think what I was referring to was that social media and this internet connectivity has made this possible. You can start serving your customers there and there for short periods of time. Just for example, we've got this new product that we are launching with a telecom provider. कि आप मोटरवे पर चलेंगे तो एम कार्ड के साथ आपकी इंश्योरेंस मोटरवे की डिडक्ट हो जाएगी. जब अब तक मोटर आपकी इंश्योरेंस खत्म हो जाएगी, आपने कुछ नहीं करना, वो खुद ही आपका वो डिडक्ट करेगी. जैसे आपका टोल टैक्स कटता है, वो डिडक्ट होगा, जब आप चलेंगे वहाँ बन जाएगा. That's where the world is going, right? So आप तो nobody asks you टोल टैक्स दो, वो आपका नंबर होता है, उसमें आपने पैसे डाले होते हैं, ऑनलाइन आप डाल देते हैं, वो खुद ही डिडक्ट कर लेता है, आप चले जाते हैं. आप कौन बैठ के वो कैश निकाले और वो बंदे नोट हैंडल करे, और कुछ फिर भी करने पड़ते हैं because somewhere the systems haven't. But we have it, it happens in the world. So it's all about facilitation, and we are now systematically moving away from being a risk management company to a lifestyle company.
वो lifestyle का and are you the only one doing this मतलब going
Yes, or we have. I think we would like there to be more. As I said, we have a very corporate-centric approach industry-wise. I think we probably are one of the few players who are looking at the consumer side of the equation, looking at this market and saying, what an opportunity. Because again, 240 million लोग के equivalent तो आपके पास कंपनियां नहीं हैं. तो आपकी I don't know कितनी कंपनियां पाकिस्तान में जो फॉर्मल सेक्टर में है जिन 240 मिलियन नहीं है. That much I can tell you for sure. तो वो अपॉर्चुनिटी मुझे बड़ी लगती है. ठीक है, इनको हैंडल करने के जो चैलेंजेस हैं और तरीके हैं और एक्सेस पॉइंट्स बहुत मुख्तलिफ है कॉर्पोरेट साइड से, बट सब वो करें तो हम ये कर अपॉर्चुनिटी.
And I guess आपका equivalent of that example जो आपने दी थी ना, the bathroom cleaning example, I think आपका equivalent of that is going digital, going on social media.
Yeah.
Right? That's your most basic.
No, because also, you see, the point is you have to address people the way they want to be addressed. I mean, in your household, irrespective of which segment of society they belong to, everybody's connected. Everybody's got a SIM phone, everybody's got a WhatsApp connection, everybody knows what YouTube is, and everybody's connected. मतलब आपके घर में कोई भी फंड हो, irrespective of which tier of society they belong to और क्या काम करते हैं, आपका माली, आपका कोक, आपका गार्ड, everybody's connected. सबको पता है. तो भाई वो चैनल अवेलेबल है और उतना सस्ता है और अवेलेबल है, तो उस पर क्यों नहीं बात करनी जाए? Simple, right?
Makes sense. I mean, so a little bit about your Kaam Kahani. Okay, so you started off in Pakistan.
Yes.
Just give us a little taste of what life is like for an upwardly mobile banker.
Wow, things have changed a lot. I think that if you look at the statistics, and it's a very numbing number that you look at how many people are being born every second globally, right? And I think from a population growth perspective, Pakistan and especially its census is very up high there in terms of high population growth. So देखिए economics में concept है scarcity of resources का. तो I think जो अल्लाह मियाँ ने हमें इस दुनिया में इस अर्थ पे जो रिसोर्सेज दिए हैं वो उस हिसाब से मल्टीप्लाई नहीं हो रही, बट पॉपुलेशन बहुत मल्टीप्लाई हो रही है. तो आई थिंक द आंसर टू योर क्वेश्चन इज दैट टाइम्स व्हेन आई वाज ग्रोइंग अप एंड आई हैड finished my education and was approaching the work sector, opportunities then were far more than the opportunities that are available now unless you've retrained yourself. So there is a very strong requirement now कि मुझे रोटरी फ़ोन्स याद हैं, मुझे वो मोबाइल पर पूरा इतना बड़ा आता था वो भी याद है, मेरे बच्चों ने कभी देखा नहीं वो, राइट. मुझे फैक्स मशीन्स याद है, मुझे टेलेक्स मशीन्स याद है, हमने उनके काम किया हुआ है और उनसे बेनिफिट उठाया हुआ है. My kids have never seen one. They don't know what a fax machine is. I mean, why would you need a fax machine? Or for that matter, why do you need a post office box? And so you still have them in various parts of the world where they are curios rather than anything else. So the world has changed significantly. When I was coming into the workforce, I think things were easy than what they are now. But again, it's about fate, luck, ismat, naseeb, whatever you call it. I decided to do what I decided from my education perspective. I happened to do a degree in banking with an MBA from banking. That kind of led me into finance. I just happened to be at the right place at the right time, got a job, and look back.
Well, it's hardly a prescription. I mean, it's hardly a prescription. It's like just happened. Just finish your MBA and just.
Lots have changed since then, right? उस ज़माने में local banks used to be not as vibrant and robust as they are today. I mean, you take one of our top local banks and they're good as any multinational bank operating in Pakistan, right? And they're giving the multinational banks a tough time, and that's why you see a lot of them leaving, because they've raised the game. पहला ज़माना था कि multinational banks आते थे और यहाँ local banks से competition नहीं होता था. जब मैं ग्रेजुएट कर रहा था उस ज़माने में मेरे ख्याल में I don't remember the exact number, कोई 15-20 फॉरेन बैग्स थे जो नौकरियाँ दे रहे थे हमें, और हमें नौकरी मिली. बाकी guys,
चलें,
अब वो नहीं है.
अब वो नहीं है. Yes.
वो नहीं है.
So now that you're at the top of the game and you're an employer, how do you see things now? Like, who do you prefer employing? What kind of people do you prefer employing? और लोग किस तरह के लोगों को आप prefer करते हैं?
So yeah, I'm going to basically quote somebody who I thought when he said this to me was something that मैं इसको याद रखूंगा और याद रखूंगा. So there is a consultancy person who said that this is a big global name, and they said कि अब हम डिग्रियाँ नहीं देखते. Whether you got a degree or not got a degree, which university or which college you went to degree, we don't even ask. हम 3 चीज़ें देखते हैं, और उन 3 चीज़ों के बेसिस पे हम आपको रखेंगे और हम आपको सिखाएंगे कि काम क्या करना है, और 2 साल के बाद आप फिर हमारा ये काम के करेंगे. Number 1, problem solver. You have to be a problem solver. You need to be able to look at a problem and say इसको solve कैसे कर. Number 2, teamwork. You need to work as a team. Don't need solo artists. We need to work as a team because problem solving solo में नहीं होती, directive basis पे होती है. Number 3, you need to be willing to learn. अगर आप में ये 3 खुसूसियात हैं तो आप हमारे कैंडिडेट हैं. अगर आप नहीं हैं तो फिर आप अफोर्ड कर रहे हैं. So those are key skills, I think, for any organization looking to develop a workforce, whereby you need people who are able to solve problems, work as teams, and willing to learn new things. भाई आपको AI चैट GPT आ गया है, आप कहेंगे जी मैंने तो नहीं पढ़ा था चैट GPT इसलिए मैं चैट GPT नहीं सीखूंगा. तो guess what? कोई और सीखेगा और आपकी नौकरी चली जाएगी, क्योंकि किसी और काम करना है. Right? World is evolving, whether you like it or not. The global warming is happening. Adapt. Solve it to whatever extent you can, but adapt. If you don't adapt, somebody else will. You won't exist.
So as an employer, आपको इस तरह के लोग मिल रहे हैं जो जिनके पास ये तीनों qualities हैं, or is it scarce?
हमारे actually, as I said, talent base बहुत अच्छा है. Because by nature, from a culture perspective, we are problem solvers. We have ability to work in teams, and we generally have a desire to be upwardly mobile. हमारा जो भी social culture norms है वो ये है कि आगे बढ़ना है. हमारे यहाँ वो 3 चीज़ें by default culture में exist करती हैं. That's why you see the entrepreneurship, you see कि यार मतलब आप दूसरे मुल्कों को compare करें, किसी मुल्क में आप जाके देखें कि जो हमारे साथ जो हमारी financial challenges आए हैं, 35%, 40% inflation, 22% base rate, और वहाँ वो घुटनों पे आगे होते हैं लोग. यहाँ तो नजर आते हैं घुटनों पे आपको, यहाँ तो पार्टी चल रही, nothing strong, right? With the vibrancy and the resilience in this society and this culture, which allows us to be outliers. But I think what we miss is structured learning. You need to have structured learning. These are great qualities to have, but you need to have structured learning and structured thought process to use these natural tendencies that you have. And we are outliers in so many fields in the world, right? I mean, whether you take it from defense militaries में चले जाए, कितने मुल्क हैं जिनके पास हमारी कैपेबिलिटीज़ है जो हमने डेवलप की, इंडिजिनसली डेवलप की ना, कैसे किया, कर लिया ना, गिनती है. So we have capability. I think structure थोड़ा सा करने की ज़रूरत है. I mean, to structure some of that talent, that potential, and then apply it. वो स्ट्रक्चर में थोड़ा सा गैप है, उसको बेहतर करने की ज़रूरत है.
तो अभी जो ये पाकिस्तानी यंग पॉपुलेशन बाहर जा रही है, लाइक दिस जस्ट अ मास एक्सोडस,
यस,
उसको कैसे रोकेंगे?
को रोकने की ज़रूरत क्या है? अब इतना बंदा यहाँ पड़ा है, बंदों की कमी तो नहीं है ना, और जाने दे. बिकॉज देखिए जाके वो ब्रांड पाकिस्तान की बात कर रहा है ना, आई रिस्पेक्टिव कि मैं कहाँ रहूँ, किधर रहूँ, ना मैं अपना नाम बदल सकता हूँ, ना मैं अपनी प्लेस ऑफ बर्थ, चाहे कोई सा पासपोर्ट है, मेरे पास दूसरा पासपोर्ट भी उस पर प्लेस ऑफ बर्थ कराची है, वो मैं चेंज नहीं कर सकता. आई एम हु आई एम. आई कांट चेंज द कलर ऑफ माई स्किन, आई कांट चेंज माई नेम, आई कैन बट nobody does. And I can't change what my identity is. So what you are sending is you send brand Pakistan out. Why not? You got more brand ambassadors. And if generally, more often than not, they will take these natural born skills and create value in the societies that they belong. And they will be appreciated for that. Why not?
That's a unique answer. I like that.
Yeah, so glass half full, right?
Yeah.
जा रही अच्छी बात है, जाए.
And it's a global community, right?
आपके लिए नहीं कर रहे ना, अभी तो नहीं कर रहे, कहीं सीखेंगे, उस स्ट्रक्चर्ड एनवायरनमेंट में रहेंगे. मैं भी तो आया था, वो भी आ जाएंगे. भैया लोग साथ वाले नेबरिंग कंट्रीज़ में जो उनका NRI कॉम्पोनेंट है कितना स्ट्रॉन्ग है, क्योंकि वहाँ से लोग गए, वो लोग बाहर पे बैठ के हेल्प कर रहे हैं, वापस आके भी हेल्प कर रहे हैं. तो हमारे यहाँ भी यही होगा, क्यों नहीं होगा? और आते हैं, हम भी आते हैं, और भी आएंगे,
वैल्यू ऐड करते हैं और आके
आएंगे, करेंगे, आके काम करेंगे. क्योंकि कनेक्शंस तो यहीं से है ना, पैदा तो यहीं हुए थे ना, और रिश्तेदार भी यहीं हैं. ठीक है, आई मीन सम 100% में नहीं होगा ये, बट फिर या तो आपके पास लोग ख़त्म हो जाए तो वो अलग बात है, वो तो नहीं ख़त्म हो रहे, बहुत है और आ रहे. व्हाई नॉट?
So there's no bringing you down, huh? You're continuously upbeat about this whole.
Yeah, that's the only option you have. Why would you want to guide? I mean, you get an income, but I mean,
No, it's great. It's great. It's a great attitude to have. And मुझे बताएं, now you're a CEO, ठीक है, and how is general management different from, being a professional? Now I'm sure you have to do much more than just working on making products or, bringing in new business, etc. So how is general management?
yeah, it's the toughest and the most difficult job. So I was watching shouldn't quote names, but very, very large name, one of the richest people in the world now, saying the CEO job is the worst job. Because वो डाइल्यूट होके आता है, सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम आपके पास. जो अच्छे काम होते हैं ना, वो दूसरे लोग संभाल लेते हैं और वो कर लेते हैं. जो प्रॉब्लम उनसे हैंडल नहीं होता, इधर यू आर द बॉटम ऑफ द फनल. सारे मसले आपके पास आते हैं, क्योंकि जो पहले ऊपर से सॉल्व नहीं हुए,
सॉल्व नहीं होते हैं, वो अनसॉल्वेबल.
you get the difficult and the most complicated problems which nobody else has solved, and you have to solve it because there's nobody behind you.
And then you do.
Not 100% of the time. There are some things you can't change. I mean, macros, तो सुबह सूरज निकलेगा नहीं निकलेगा, I can't do jack about it. रुपी डिवैल्यू होगा नहीं होगा, मैं क्या कर सकता. So you learn to adapt, but it seems like it's a good glorified job because you get to do nothing, but you get to solve all the problems, and that's the problem that nobody else has the ability or desire to solve. So they just kick it up to you कि आप करने decide. हमने नहीं साइन करना, आप साइन कर. तो मैं क्यों करूँ भाई? आप CEO है, आप करें.
You asked for it.
So that's how you get it. I mean, that's fine. But then again, you see, it's not a one-way street, right? So you have the support structure, you have the information, and sometimes you're right, sometimes you're not. I make mistakes all the time. Happens.
So was this something that you sort of foresaw, something that you worked towards, general management? Yes, something that just came to be because you had sort of risen through the ranks, and this was the natural.
Yeah, so I think, generally speaking, we as a nation are ambitious. I mean, I was equally so. अच्छा ये कर लिया, अब बताओ क्या करें. अच्छा ये कर लिया, अब बताओ क्या करें. अच्छा और बताओ. Just kept moving and it just came. There was no plan. Just happened.
So do you keep upskilling yourself in any way?
Yeah.
And how do you do it?
Yeah, self-motivation होती. Also, I think the most important thing you can do in life is surround yourself with people you aspire to be. That's so important, right? तो अगर आपको कुछ भी करना है, चाहे पर्सनल लाइफ में, प्रोफेशनल लाइफ में, तो आप अपने आप को एक ऐसी इन्वायरमेंट में डालें जहां आप समझते हैं कि आप थोड़ा सा पीछे हैं और आप उनसे कुछ सीख सकते हैं. So you challenge yourself constantly. Absolutely. And it's not easy. It's not, sometimes it takes a little bit of effort. But so constantly, so I was in Kenya and Nairobi for 2 weeks. There's a micro insurance accelerator program for 2 weeks. I was there for a week and I couldn't fit it the other week. And I learned stuff I'd never thought about before. Going to a market and there's so many ideas that now we are bringing and implementing here. It's just light bulb moments कि यार ये हम क्यों नहीं कर सकते. बिल्कुल कर सकते, तो कर लो. किसी ने सोचा नहीं, कहाँ पर ठीक है हम कर ले. So there's, I mean, quite a bit of long tail of things that we are now doing as we speak. Just time to challenge yourself. Get yourself out of your comfort zone. That's what you have to do. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. But that's it. Just get out of bed and get it done.
I had a question about insurance. तो जो banking में Islamization हो रही है, the banks are sort of slated to become Islamic banks by 2030. इस तरह इंश्योरेंस में भी कुछ हो रहा है या?
देखिए, एज आई सेड, इंश्योरेंस थोड़ा सा बैंकिंग से पीछे चलता है. जहाँ बैंकिंग ने विंडोज़ लॉन्च की और कुछ डेडिकेटेड इस्लामिक बैंक्स लॉन्च किए, इसी तरह इंश्योरेंस में भी वी हैव अ विंडो. So 50% of my business is takaful, 50% is
Oh, really? 50%?
yeah,
Okay.
almost 50%. But there are dedicated takaful only companies. They're less than conventional companies, but hey, so pretty much every conventional company, by and large, will do takaful. So depending on the focus and the areas of products that they're interested in, they will have a takaful business. It's a more equitable and a more fair way of doing things, banking as well as insurance. However, because it's not as well established as conventional, I mean, अगर आप interest based financing की और sharia based financing की comparison करें on a global scale, बहुत फर्क है in terms of number of transactions and exposures which are on the interest based side versus the sharia based side. इसी तरह बहुत तफरीक है between insurance that is done on the conventional side from a risk management and a risk exposure perspective to risk that is done with the government. बहुत फर्क है. काफ़ी, I would say 1:10 का फर्क है, maybe more, maybe less, I don't know. But it's evolving. It's evolving. I think थोड़ा सा pull है, थोड़ा सा push है. As I said, you have to be different, you have to evolve. So similarly, the takaful products have evolved. They have been different, so they've solved problems which this other conventional people were not solving. So that's the push कि हम product देते हैं आपको. पुल ये है कि कोई कहता है कि जी मैंने अपना बिजनेस इस्लामिक कर लिया है, मुझे रोज जी इस्लामिक चाहिए, तो मुझे इस्लामिक इंश्योरेंस चाहिए. तो पहले हम कहते हैं कि जी सॉरी, इस जो आपको चाहिए वो अवेलेबल नहीं है, आप कन्वेंशन ले लें, हम आहिस्ता आहिस्ता कर देंगे. तो ट्रांजिशन हो रहा है.
And you responding to the market.
हाँ. मगर अगेन देखिए, ग्लोबल ट्रेंड्स है. इंश्योरेंस की जो आपका रिस्क मैनेजमेंट है, कंज्यूमर रिटेल इज प्रीटी मच इंडिजेनस, बिकॉज छोटा रिस्क होता है, बड़ा रिस्क तो ग्लोबली मैनेज होता है. पावर प्लांट जो $1 बिलियन का है या इससे ज़्यादा की मालियत का है, वो इतनी कैपेसिटी, रिस्क की और नॉलेज यहाँ है नहीं. तो वो तो फार्म आउट होती है ग्लोबली, यहाँ से जाती है और फिर मुख्तलिफ लोग उसमें रिस्क पार्टिसिपेशन करते हैं, उसमें रिस्क का वैल्यूज़ ऐड करते हैं. तो इसलिए आपको वो ग्लोबल पूल्स ऑफ रिस्क कैपिटल डैप करने पड़ते हैं. एंड वी हैव टू ट्रीटमेंट्स. वी हैव अ कन्वेंशनल ट्रीटी, वी हैव अ takaful treaty. The convention is bigger to treat them, but they're growing. This one is growing faster, actually. Takaful.
Okay, so that's a question I had in mind, because banking, of course, is a huge sort of push towards.
I mean, there are some challenges again because you have to index yourself as to, because you are not an isolation. You know, you are not sitting in an island. You have to be connected. Whatever, there may be some local things you can do, like local financing and things. But if you're talking about bringing in risk capital from outside, आपकी जब NCR खुलती हैं और आपको foreign risk capacity चाहिए to confirm your LCs or guarantees that you issue or international trade that you do, you have to comply with global standards. And if global standards in the Sharia space have not evolved, then this is a necessity. I think everybody is evolving, and it's not that solutions are not being found, but it just takes a while. Time लगेगा, हो जाएगा.
I mean, so what is, it's a different way. We started off with the image of Pakistan and how that's not really something that's marketed well. What is your philosophy of personal branding? How do you do it for yourself?
I think, again, what is an individual? And an individual is a persona of beliefs, thoughts. This is what and values. And then how that is represented by actions that you do, right? So, आप कुछ values पे believe करते हैं, आप कुछ norms में believe करते हैं और वो आप फिर act करते हैं. That's your persona, right? What is right for you may not be right for me. What is right for me may not be right for you. But we have to live within the norms of our culture and the society that you live to. What we can do here probably may not be acceptable in a different environment. So there is a modality or an adjustment that happens, right? So you can behave in a certain way in certain environments. And if there is too much conflict of that behavior with your values and your beliefs, then that creates challenges. That means then either you are not comfortable or it will create conflict. But अगर आपकी values और environment congruence में है तो फिर ठीक रहता है. तो personal branding essentially to a large extent is values and beliefs within the environment that you live in. Some things we may consider noble and good in other environments may be considered absolutely inappropriate. So आपको to a certain extent mold करना पड़ता है अपने आप को जिस environment में आप रहते हैं, जिस culture society का हिस्सा है आप. And I don't know what else to say really.
Sir, tell us something. Banking, of course, is a popular profession. A lot of people get into it. Should people get into the insurance sector as a profession?
Absolutely. देखिए, if you look at it from an opportunity set perspective, insurance is financial services, hence has all the hallmarks of analytics and concepts and structures which need to be followed. In most Western advanced nations, insurance companies actually are considered more valuable than banks. Example, case in point, the richest man in the world, Warren Buffett, his holding company and his main asset that he's built his entire empire for, one of the richest person in the world is Berkshire Hathaway. There is a reason for it. And he has holding in banks as well and other companies ranging from global brands. But it is very few companies in the world have this aspect कि आपको पैसे पहले मिलते, खर्चे बाद में करने होते और आप उन पैसों को किस तरह डिप्लॉय करते हैं अपने क्लेम्स और खर्चों को देने के लिए और इन्वेस्टमेंट करने के लिए. ये बहुत कम कंपनीज के पास ये एडवांटेज होता है. पेंशन फंड्स आर सिमिलर, बट you are long cash, you are a very key part of an individual's life because you are protecting what is near and dear to them. I think the story in our part of the world hasn't been sold very well. We have not communicated well the true opportunity, and I think there's a lot to be done. And particularly for young people coming into the workforce, I think barriers to entry, to a certain extent, competition is much less. And the good thing is that if you look at it from a stability perspective, if you look at it from a growth perspective, if you look at it from a global outreach perspective, equally good.
I mean, so what's your stock advice for young aspiring professionals? What's your favorite piece of advice that you like giving?
Exposure, travel, read, and learn. And learning doesn't come by sitting in a college or a university or an online course. This world has a lot to teach you. So keep learning. And I think a very, very important thing is where something I think from a society and a cultural perspective, sometimes we get off the track because we are so focused. You need to have passions in your life, which are nothing to do with the livelihood that you have. It is so important to be able to switch off. Ideally, they should be physical, if possible, but if not, then that's fine. But you need to be able to, because देखिए creativity का एक process है. अगर आप बहुत एक चीज़ के बारे में सोचे रहे और उस पर focus करते रहे, तो after a while there is fatigue that sets in. आपको चीज़ें नज़र ही नहीं आती, आपको चीज़ें सोचने नहीं आती. You need to switch off, go to a different zone, and focus on that, and then come back to it. And all of a sudden, those answers that you were looking for were already there, but you couldn't see it. It's like if you have a certain sofa in your home, and it's there, after a few days, you don't see it. It's there, but you don't see it. And when it goes missing, you see, kya tha yahan, right? So, so that's the whole point. You need to have passions in your life, which is something which is separate from your formal allocated responsibility, be it your work, be it your studies. You need to follow passions. And that, I think, opens up areas of problem solving and creativity, which generally, if you get too caught up in something, it just doesn't happen.
So it takes you out of What's your part of
Yeah,
it?
कुछ जिंदगी में आई थिंक कुछ जिंदगी का मकसद सिर्फ एक कोलू की बैल की तरह गोल गोल चक्कर काटना नहीं है. I think there is more to life. The only point is that there is one thing which is irreplaceable, which is time. And that you get a finite amount of. You don't know how much you have, I don't know how much I have. But we know that you're not going to go back and be 13 again. Not going to happen, right? So,
Thank God.
Huh?
Thank God.
Some people wouldn't like, they want to reverse time, right? They spend so much effort and time doing it. But the point here is that you only get to live once. It's a journey from point A to point B. Enjoy the journey. You'll get there eventually. Maybe it won't be point A, it will be B1, B2, B, not terminal 1, but terminal 3. It doesn't matter. You'll get there in the end, right? Or not get there. Maybe that wasn't their destiny. But the point is कि यार वो जाते भाई तो रास्ते में तो देखो क्या था, उसको तो enjoy कर लो. जहाँ पहुँचना है वो तो पहुँच ही जाओगे eventually. या नहीं पहुँचोगे, maybe that was not your destiny. So passions are very important. And I think that's when we lose a little bit. The ability, whether it's sports, some people like cricket, some people like sports, some people like hockey, table tennis, whatever. You need to have something. And whatever, I mean, I'm saying sports is generally a good, healthy thing to do. There could be other things. So I'm passionate into gardening. So that's my, I mean, I have many passions. I won't have one. I have multiple. But so I have 2 or 3 things at all points in time which are my interests, which have nothing at all, no correlation with my work. It just makes life worth living. And when I'm traveling, so for example, I mean, when I'm traveling, लोग पहाड़ देख रहे होते हैं, मैं पौधे देख रहा होता हूँ. मैं पौधे अपने साथ होते हैं, मेरे पास 2 नहीं, इसके बाद मैं ले जा सकता हूँ, तो मैं लंदन से पौधे लेके आए. That's what I mean, people were collecting, well, जूते कपड़े भी खरीदे, but पौधे भी लिए हैं. So I love the plants. Now let's try again. अब ज़्यादातर मर जाते हैं, जलते नहीं, because वो environment बहुत different है. It's about, you know, getting them to morph into this environment. It's a different weather. It's a different weather here. So, but keeps things going. Try करें किस तरह बचाए, इसको साइड में रखें, इसको ज़्यादा पानी दे, पानी कम दे, किस तरह करें. It's just, it's interesting.
It is. With that great advice, sir, thank you so much for being here. It was just a pleasure talking to you.
The pleasure's all right.
Thank you for being on Kaam Kahani. And thank you for watching Kaam Kahani. Till next time, see you with another Kaam Kahani. Khuda Hafiz.